really the most important thing that has helped me has just been networking and forming relationships at different in-person gatherings. Remember those? Um, but yeah, just I worked with an organization for a few years that had a fairly large impact, and so I met a lot of people through there and just built relationships. I mean, to the point where like right now this week I'm in meetings for you know a fairly sizable contract with somebody that I met several years ago at one of those events. So to me, it's just been a lot about building relationships and not even necessarily intentionally building relationships, but for money to get out of it, but just to know people, just to form friendships that at some point might turn into something, right? So that's part of what I do for my gigs. The other thing is I've really specialized in the area of online marketing. Not so much running the ads, but creating them. I found that most of us, when we start out as filmmakers, we really niche down into lighting and cinematography and gear, um, and kind of ignore some of the really big elements that the market is wanting right now. And
Mm.
I found there's quite a lot of people who are running ads, who are running, selling different products online, et cetera, who need content that is on brand and really going to work well. So with that, a lot of where I find those is online, just basically doing what I did in person, but online. So a long way of saying a lot of networking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that's great for up and coming filmmakers to hear. There's no getting around network.
No,
So,
honest,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Sorry to
I
cut
was
you
just
off.
going to say it. And honestly, I think I overcomplicated it in my mind when I was starting out, thinking like, oh, it's business. It's just this complicated thing. But now that I have my own, what I've really found is that you really only have three main components. You have to have a good product or service. You have to be good at what you do. You have to network well. You have to tell the people. You have to tell the market about what you do, and you have to know your numbers. You have to price yourself right, and as long as you do those three things, you can be successful. It's not that complicated. There's a lot of different ways of figuring out those things. Like your way of talking to me, people might be DMing people on Instagram. It might be LinkedIn. It might be, talking to neighbors. It might be like another contract that I just signed is literally from a guy that I go climbing with on the weekends. Um, so it's like no matter how you're doing it, it's really all about those three keys. And that would be the biggest thing I would say to people who are starting out on it.
Nice. It's very helpful. Jerry Hartman has a question.
Yeah, Mark, I was just wondering, you said that last element of a simple business plan is know your numbers, right? Do you have
Yes.
some things that you could talk to, college students about as far as mistakes maybe you made in the past that you could help them
Yep.
not make? I mean, how do you figure out right as you're starting to work with clients what that is and figuring out where you are in the marketplace?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a phenomenal question and definitely something that I wish I had known sooner. Um, I think the first thing is, I, and I'm going to say two things that are going to kind of fight against each other. Um, the first thing is when somebody is starting out, you don't want to overprice yourself. I've been there's a individual that I've been giving him some tips and stuff over the years, and his quality is such that I would not give him the advice that I'm about to give. So this is all predicated in make sure that your stuff has a baseline level of quality to it. But the biggest thing that I wish I had known earlier is that I shouldn't try to justify my prices based on how I think they should be. I need to let the market tell me how much they want to pay me. Um, for instance, I might think, okay, my time is worth so much money because I have this much gear, et cetera, et cetera. And based on that, I'm just gonna give myself just enough so I can drive my prices as low as possible so I can get this client. It's like if that's what you're having to do to get that client, you probably don't want that client. It's much better to say, okay, based on this client, and this is where you're going to have to know some details about them. How much do they stand to gain from this? Like if they stand to gain 100 grand, you don't want them to pay you 200 bucks, or 1,000. Like if they stand to gain 100 grand, 10% is not an irrational number to have for that, right? So going in kind of having some of those details in mind, thinking, okay, how much do they stand to gain from this? And then pricing based on that rather than just saying, okay, I want to be paid $20 an hour or $50 an hour. So really letting the market tell you. So as far as a practical of how I will often approach that, I start by I don't sell my technical skills to capture video. I sell an end result. I sell the result saying, okay, I'm going to give you a set of film assets that will be tailored to the specific outcome you're looking for. And based on that, that's the value. And it's going to be super high quality, right? So they're not paying me to come, they're not in the mindset of, okay, I need to pay an hourly worker to come in and do this. So once I have that, then I'm trying to assess where are they, how much do they want to spend in this? And oftentimes I'll ask them for a budget, then to make sure, or how much they want to spend on it, then to make sure that I'm effectively playing the money game. What I'll end up doing is I'll send 3 different budget options in a proposal. It's a really professional, well laid out proposal, and I have kind of on their low end, medium end, and then high end. It's usually outside of what they've already said is their budget. That way, I'm not going to lose them if they really don't have a huge budget, and I'm not going to cheat myself and leave money on the table if they're actually willing to go a lot higher. So all of that's kind of complicated to a simple question, but yeah, really making sure that you're letting the market tell you how much they want to pay and going after the jobs that have money in them. It's like it's super fun to do short films that are super creative, but it's like for me, and this is why I've niched down into marketing, it's like there's a bunch of people who will pay good money for you to make a really effective ad that makes their product look amazing. They have money, they want to pay it. So finding the market that actually has the money to give is a really important part of that. So
Thank you.
absolutely, thank you, great question.
I hope everyone took copious notes with all of the gems that Mark just dropped, true insight from time working, finding gigs, and just assessing your own value. And that was just all tremendous advice to give to students. Thank you so much.